LCK Summer 2018 promotion tournament may only be one game away from its conclusion. MVP have gone to match point against KONGDOO Monster and done it in style. Solo kill for ADD on Kleptomancy Gangplank against the Gnar. The Caitlyn comp wielded very strongly. The Jinx Tom Cantry liked the response, but unfortunately, there's no availability of the Zac to make engages. The Morgana Black Shield got maximum value and a very well-earned victory for MVP in game number 3.
Game 3 does go over the side of MVP. I feel like it's more of a loss of KONGDOO rather than a win of MVP, especially
Hey, we're casters. The glass is half full.
But you look at game 1 and game 3,
Sure.
how they lost the game.
Yep.
They couldn't defend against the Camille and the Karma split push that happened along the bot side until it got to the inhibitor turret being destroyed. Game 3, I feel like it was the same thing, especially with the Caitlyn pushing so hard. They just didn't know how to react to this, starting with the bot tower falling down, the top tower falling down as well, the mid turret eventually falling down with the full siege that was coming through. And in the end, you talked about the Caitlyn push that was just absolutely just ignored after the Baron and just went totally towards the gameplay, trying to get an all-in kill. Didn't work out, and that's literally the end of what KONGDOO was trying to do.
It was some poker things. You go all in, sometimes you have to fold afterwards and realize you've lost. Speaking of a change, KONGDOO Monster decides this is the time for Yujun. And while Yujun had a good game on the Kazakhs, that was where, of course, they did lose to Ever 8 winners and have to go to a game 3. Raze has picked up every single game victory. Yujun, sadly, has not picked up that first professional victory yet. He can play the aggressive junglers. He has been able to watch the enemy jungler for 3 games, but we can see him on our screens. He looks pretty nervous. He doesn't want to be there in the lineup if KONGDOO Monster to go down, and he would have to rewrite history to stop that happening.
As a professional player, you want to prove yourselves and show yourself to the public in the best of ways, but when you're put in a situation like this, after tremendously just really terminated by MVP in game 3, now going to this game 4, could be the last game of KONGDOO before the face of going back to the Division 2. Yujun is in a tough position, Papa. You have to put yourself in that perspective of being in a position where you have to do something that your other jungler didn't. And I feel like jungler from Raze wasn't the only fault in getting them in this situation for KONGDOO.
Wielding a good pick and ban is also going to be something KONGDOO Monster will have to work on. MVP going to be back on the blue side for this game number 4. Just like every other time they were on blue side, not interested in Raze being able to pick up the Olaf, and in this case Yujun, as he is subbed in for game number 4. We'll see where we are with the flex bans, because remember, KONGDOO adjusted in game number 2 and banned away the Karma, led to a first pick Scion, but we're going on 2 straight Scion losses. We'll see if that affects the picks and bans, and specifically the first pick on blue side, as Gangplank this time joins the ban list.
Really is, and Kai'Sa's going to join in there as well for KONGDOO, along with Swain, and still have a lot of champions they had a difficult time against in this particular series, naming the Camille and also the Caitlyn as well recently in game 3. Really, the Karma's there as well, so can they handle these champions they could not ban in this first round of ban phase, and MVP is going to have a lot of open picks to choose from.
Caitlyn was that last part of the AD carry triangle that has been so far banned away, the triumvirate. They're going to leave open the Caitlyn, but now Morgana and Caitlyn have very, very high value. Feels like KONGDOO will take both if it's available on red side, and the priority comes on the side of the Caitlyn when it comes to the duo.
The largest contributor to the victory in game 3, I feel like, was the Caitlyn. It pushes so hard.
It just does what it does so well, right?
It really
There's
is.
a very large margin for error between Black Shield in that game, but also the general safety of traps and also the disengage. We knew these would be the 2 champions grouped together if they could be. One taken away by KONGDOO Monster. First pick, Morgana on red side.
Yeah, then the Kai'Sa and the Varus, still a lot of picks open, but still believes in the Jinx. Feels like if they got to the late game enough without taking many faults, they felt like they could have carried this on through, but the problem was they lost so much in game 3, they really couldn't get to the late game with much efficiency, but now they're here again, just a retry, a rematch to thinking that Jinx will work out this time around.
Now it's not just same picks, same bans, are we doing a replay? Because remember, it was Caitlyn Morgana, double range, Black Shield on the longest range AD carry. Now it's actually the Jinx who has the Black Shield and the double range. MVP choosing between 2 options, the Braum and the Tahm Kench. The Morgana provides lane presence and also shielding. Now they kind of choose one or the other. They end up going for the Tahm Kench, and with the Gangplank taken away, we're going for the ultra safety of the Ornn for ADD.
Just a very similar approach coming from MVP this time around. Gonna be Talia coming from the KONGDOO squad. Putting that onto Edge and trying to look for some roam opportunities to get an all-in phase along with the Jinx and Morgana hopefully in the bot lane, but could be a little more flexible with that.
I wonder where the second ban will go, because usually if you take a mid laner, it's double ban. On the red side here, the Zoe already taken away, a good pick for Ian. The Vladimir has been banned a lot recently against Taliyah because the game reaches a point where Vladimir goes flash Shirelia's proto belts at Jinx and Taliyah and there's nothing they can do. However, the early game is noticeably weaker for having the Vladimir. Seems like KONGDOO Monster aren't going to respect Ian's Vlad, not being a big pick for him historically. Was also a matchup we saw in the LPL semifinals yesterday. Thunderban comes through as MVP, say, hey, maybe we want some tanks, we don't want a deal. With the Trundle in that regard. Now we're into the second round, looking for top lane and jungle from KONGDOO.
Yes, the KONGDOO just trying to provide the best laning phase for Edge on that Taliyah. Trying to have him on the safety as much as possible, banning out all the mid.
Okay.
That was going to be the Singed here. Someone in solo queue yesterday, but not much in the LCK.
Oh, we saw it in the LPL semifinals as well as Zitai running all over in Game 5 against IG. Duke in that particular matchup, two Korean top laners. Oh, the Shy, that was actually incorrect. Wait, Zitai. Zitai. I have Zitai, the Shy, and other Korean top laners on my mind, but still, it's going to be Singed from Roach, something different from him. Action onto MVP. They want to amp up their mid game by taking the Skarner. Question is, what we taken into the Taliyah?
I mean, really impressive to see, how the Singed works around the Jinx and the hyper carry that it's trying to present, but Max, with the last pick, can get the Cassiopeia onto Ian. Let's see if that's the final choice though, because against Taliyah, a lot of the mid champions have been banned out from the side of KONGDOO, but they're gonna go with the Cassiopeia, trying to see what the last pick is, and KONGDOO, last choice here.
Now, if this was raised, you'd think Zac, right? Because Zac could engage onto the Cassiopeia and get him down. They've waited till last pick to pick jungle. You'd think it's going to be something risky because Yujun is in the lineup. What are they going to show? This would be erring very far on the risk. The Zac makes sense compositionally, but Yujun playing the Zac versus Raze playing the Zac, you probably go for the former. I think their first thought was risky, last pick jungler. Think Kha'Zix, think the Evelyn, they flashed for a moment. They go for the Zac for team comp to have more threat onto the Cassiopeia. Cassia very strong in the 1v1 against the Taliyah, but ganks can mess up her time. It's the first time we're seeing both grounding effects in the game, as well as miasma and also the goo coming through from the Singed is there. Very interesting stuff. If you go for that W from range, suddenly Zac's gonna 100% be able to get the kidnap off, as you cannot flash away the puddle from the Singed. Interesting pick ban here. To us, the big game breaker is, how's Roach's Singed looking? Because it's a recent meta pick, but not something he's been playing with any regularity.
At the same time, Yujun's first appearance in this series brings out the Zac instead of the Kha'Zix was the last showing that he showed with that champion. Has done well, did end up in a loss, but talk about Zac being a different prototype and what they're trying to approach here with the composition with KONGDOO being the last opportunity to get themselves staying alive in this LCK matchup to get their hopes up, still ready to go. But I think the big point here is that the Singed, as you say, how do they rotate that around the macro with the help of the Jinx and also the Zac on the way?
And also, can the Taliyah allow KONGDOO to bridge to late? Because this time late game, you're seeing the Jinx, you're seeing potentially a lot of power to wield. The Skarner, proactive, the Caitlyn lane, so powerful in game number 3. Little adaptations on both sides. How will it result? We're about to find out. Game number 4, match point. The side of MVP, a victory here. They go to Summer. KONGDOO Monster goes to Challenger. See how it goes in game number 4. Should be fun, Joel. I'm ready for this. I'm ready to stand up and shout. We'll see if it is going to be MVP going through or KONGDOO Monster forcing that game number 5. Double ward put down at level 1 by KONGDOO Monster Invade just before we flashed the players on screen. Defensive ward also on their side. So a bit of vision swapping here, as both red buffs are countable by both teams.
You see here, but Skarner on the top end of things. Get the first 15 gold of the game. Skarner is going to start blue with the help of Ornn. Either way, it will be known towards the side of KONGDOO with that ward, as you do say. It's going to be alive for the first 1 minute and 30 when the red spawns. Doesn't see any jungler around. Gonna let them know that to the Zac side, the red will be available at the very start of the game.
No confirmation that Caitlyn and Tahm Kench are in the second brush. So that is something that's going to have to be fought over in bot lane. No one's giving a leash because no one wants to give away the free level 2. Roach was able to actually walk up and get the minions with the poison as they came into lane, which is also more than you're necessarily guaranteed in the Singed lane. Gone are quite the days where you would walk around 1 minute 30 and just get the minion wave before it hit the first turret. Things have changed a little bit in that meta. Singed all about getting behind the turret, creating map pressure. With the fact that the minions are no longer providing vision for the side of MVP. And you always kind of have to watch the mini-map, and you can tell from it usually how the Singed lane is going. If Singed's under his turret, it's a disaster. If he's under the enemy turret, things going all right.
Usually you won't see that much pressure coming from the Ornn in the top lane against the Singed. Not much kill pressure coming in as long as you don't allow a lot of chip damage, but Singed on the Roach is going to be feeling about how I can rotate this game and how much proxy can he get on those minion waves behind the enemy turret.
It's not quite 420, Joel. It's actually the 22nd of April, but I think we're getting a pretty dank build from Roach in this game. I think a couple of Dark Seals into the Swifty boots. It was actually triple Dark Seal Swifties, and also the Rylai's is going deep on the edge.
And that's gonna be
He's just done.
Yeah, and there's, even if he flashes out, he can chase him right after, and that will be just a flash wasted with the kill. So, Beyond didn't have to invest much in that very easy encounter there with the help of Ian.
And it was actually a prepared point there because clearly they knew that Edge was one of these Taliyah players. They would have watched video and seen level 3 push up, use the rock surfing, get a ward onto the enemy Raptors. We knew the vision game was in KONGDOO Monsters' minds. They put down 2 wards at level 1, but they catch him there. Great collapse with the Predator. Not the Predator not even available, just a very smart collapse from the mid lane as well. Well executed by KONGDOO Monster. Against KONGDOO Monster, I should say, by MVP.
Does feel bad when you're KONGDOO Monster, getting knocked off. When you're trying to protect your Taliyah in the mid lane so much. Starting from the ban pick phase when so many mid champions were kind of banned away just to provide the best possible matchup for the Taliyah here. But to go down in one death really early this game, the first 3 minutes, something they definitely wanted to avoid as KONGDOO Monster, but have to carry on with this and try to find the best stability with the kind of the opportunity they have wasted for themselves.
And they have that differing voice, right? They have Raze out of the team and Yujun in the team. This very talented solo queue jungler whose talents unfortunately haven't translated to the highest level. Roach goes for a very aggressive teleport back to lane with his second Dark Seal. Does take a bit of damage mid lane.
The gank coming on, and that's going to be connecting with the pulling him back.
Heal.
Ian just go for the heal, and that's going to be a lot of damage onto Yujin. Forces out the flash. So initially a very good gank with the interaction coming from Taliyah, pulling him back as well. But that heal will be good enough for him to just get away from all things. And now we're back to the bot lane where they just evenly trade going on to both sides. But more importantly, Ian survives that gank there.
So the battle to me that actually is probably most central to this game is, we talked about how Jinx can very comfortably lane into Caitlyn, and in the end that didn't actually bear any fruit in game number 3. We always talk when we have a mid laner who can roam about mid lane priority and the ability to threaten bot side. This is definitely a ching bot side if you are the Taliyah, because you're able to roam and get the Jinx ahead of the Caitlyn, Tahm Kench, and also Infernal Drake is the first spawn in this game. So if you can get a double control ward, honestly, about where the control wards are from MVP at this point, then you have so much value every time you rock surf towards the bot side. Whether you use the ult or not, you're relieving pressure from the Jinx, you're heaping pressure onto the Tahm Kench and the Caitlyn. So that is the mini goal. That's what KONGDOO Monster need to take a deep breath and focus on, largely through Yujun and Edge, finding mid lane priority against the Skarner Cassio. Not easy to do. Cassio's all-ins work very, very well against the Taliyah, but that's what they really need to try to set up.
At the same time, we're going to see a lot more stability coming from the top lane. Roach is really not going to have realistic kill potential against the Ornn. Just gets away, just goes back home, will be perfectly to go. But more the kind of the attention will be drawn towards the bot lane, as you're saying. Who makes the first rotation. Edge definitely can get there a lot quicker. As long as he can get to level 6 in time. He does get there now, and Ian has to be aware of this, trying to provide protection as much extended vision with the help of Beyond as well. Down on that bottom side of the jungle, as you did mention, in the river.
Everyone's playing bot side. The Singe does prosper because that's the sort of time you can get your dirty farm on and get behind the turret. We should be seeing Roach do that situationally when he can set it up. Honestly, when you're Singed, and we've all played solo queue where the Singe just died a few times, as long as he's creating lane pressure, he's basically Yasuo. He's pushing up, he's getting lane pressure. It's something. That's what they're looking for here, is the ability for him to push up. And if they draw the enemy jungler, that all-in bot side with the Talia going to be that much more reliable.
Can I see Beyond on the bot side of his jungle right now, so we will be able to provide protection for his bot duo. If a gank does come up from mid lane, or even from the Zac even, but right now we're going to see the teleport coming in from Max with the Tahm Kench. The Unseal Spellbook.
It looks unnecessary, but the reason why he had to do that is they have no forward vision on where Yujun is, and he doesn't want to walk to lane pre-6 when he doesn't have the Abyssal Voyage, and he's just afraid there's going to be an all-in by 4 members that he's not there for. So, not ideal to be laning with a teleport that's on cooldown, but that's what Max feels like he needs to be able to get through the lane.
And I see Roach there, trying to just approach the Ornn the best they can. Taking the trade damage, but most likely ADD just rush in there. Little fear, but Roach not really much under threat as well, as long as the gank doesn't come in from the jungle or even the mid laner. Most likely the Singe will be in a good place to go.
Should available is Beyond looking for his first Impale. I don't believe he's been spotted yet, still playing around, but there was a control ward, so I might have just about spotted him on the edge.
You're going to see Secret just roaming around this mid lane. The side of MVP definitely knows that Morgana is missing on the bot side and has traveled towards the mid. But that means that you see Beyond just chilling around in the side of the jungle, just in case Morgana decides to do anything crazy over there. But otherwise, a little bit of peace interactions on the both sides so far.
And what are they fighting? Mid lane priority. 2 control wards go down, and Skarner says that's the last thing I can allow to happen. As top side, seeing an attempt at an all-in, pretty hard to hit Roach. He's going to walk away, creeping together some items. Not going to be the Swifty Boots that Zatai was running yesterday. The Merc Tread's being worked on. I assume Banner of Command coming somewhere. We'll see if the Rylai's comes in at all. People disagree on how much damage you need on the Singe.
Let's see Edge here, trying to rival it out, but really reminiscent of all the 3 games we had so far. Very slow early game from both MVP and KONGDOO. Similar once again in this game 4. That could be the last game. We have to remind ourselves that KONGDOO Monster does lose out this one, then we'll not see their faces or their names on the banner of the LCK for the upcoming summer split.
And that's why you sit back and say, why now for Yujun? Because we've been a bit critical, I think, of when he's been subbed in. I think back to when they were 1 game up against Ever 8 winners and subbed in Yujun and lost. And unfortunately, that has been the case. Every time he has played, either as a starter or being subbed in for future games, has actually been a game and inevitably set loss for KONGDOO Monster. So this is the time they choose to run him. They're looking for his aggression. He's on the Zac, and again, we like it for comp. Don't know if we like it for shot calling, as they're shot calling this, again, promotion tournament better than some of their stints in the LCK. Waiting to see if Yujun can pull off that amazing miracle Zac engage. And speaking of engages,
we're going to see Max just roam in here.
All right, Roach, great escape time. ADD managed it. Where are we going?
Annoyed enough by the proxying of the waves coming from the Singe, and Beyond's right there to provide some cover, but at the same time we're kind of seeing an Ian-esque type of play.
He's still going.
And he's just wasting a lot of time for the side. And it's going to be this ultimate coming in from the Talia.
And look at what KONGDOO were doing at the same time during the Yakety Sack Singed moment.
And this is exactly what I was talking about with Ian-esque type of play we saw earlier in games 2 and 3. We see that kind of being replicated by Roach on just Singe, wasting a lot of time, creating a lot of distraction for the side of the bot duo with Soul and Secret to put a lot of chip damage onto the bot turret.
And it's not trivial chip damage. It's not Caitlyn getting chip damage. It's Jinx getting chip damage through all the commotion, and they don't even get the kill onto Roach. MVP, they only had a 1-step plan, and that step is the first rule you never break in League of Legends. Their first step was chase the Singed. They certainly had it turned around on them, and while it doesn't mean the turret goes down, suddenly there's a good reason for Yujun to do his best impression of Beyond on Trundle, sit in the bot lane, and try to take this first turret.
You observe, what Roach lost in that interaction. Pretty much nothing. He traveled across the entire map, went home, came back to top lane, and sees about 20% of his turret being knocked off by the Ornn there. So really much a big win coming from Rush. They're still looking on to kind of reap his sows and see how it does there.
Well, now that the chasing singed part has ended, we're seeing some all-in attempts bot side.
Getting the ultimate connected from Seeker with the blast shield.
Everyone's
and
here.
Zach and the Talia joining in. Pilot, can he just get away from it? He's just trying to protect the turret as much as he can, but from the earlier efforts we saw from Singe distraction, buying a lot of time for KONGDOO Monster. They get at their second push with the 4-member strong. It's going to be very, very good first turret picked up, and it's going to be leading on to the Infernal Drake.
That all-in we talked about in Game 3, it did not work. The all-in bot lane, perfect timing. They actually had the control wards around mid, so mid lane priority, a low bot health tower, and Infernal. Are they going to get everything? Are they getting aces? They are.
It's going to be Zach just running away with things. He's going to have the ultimate just to get out of there. Zach might be going down with the ultimate coming from the Skarner, and that will be a dead Zach. But trying to go for more here. Soul's going to go down as well. Ian putting up enough damage to knock out the Jinx. So in addition to the Infernal Drake and the first turret, might be a second turret for KONGDOO Monster. They do lose 2 members from the side of KONGDOO, but right now, just trying to use the ultimate. Everything he has, Roach, to put as much chip damage onto that turret as possible.
Back end of the trade isn't as good as it first appears because, like you mentioned, Roach couldn't and wasn't there. He's able to push in, can't get a turret. But with the extra teleport, all they get is a second kill. A kill for an Infernal, that's probably fine. There ends up being a small advantage there for MVP. They're focusing on getting immediate gold. Their comp needs it. It's a Skarner comp, very much is cresting around the mid-game when it comes to power spikes. But overall, that turret's still looking very healthy for KONGDOO Monster. The Infernal Drake was taken. I think there might have been a mistake from Eugen as this goes on. We'll wait and see where the ultimate was channeled. It looks like he can get over the wall, but isn't able to. Remember, you can't be interrupted when you're through the Zac ultimate, so I'm going to look at that and say it was a mistake. Regardless, they are able to get the Infernal. Soul goes down, doesn't use his heal, realized after Flash he was going to die. Still, objective the way of KONGDOO Monster, capitalizing on mid lane priority the way of KONGDOO Monster. And if they're forcing the Caitlyn around, if they're telling her which lane to enter, it's a very good sign for the Jinx comp.
It really is, and after such a taunting Game 3, really dominating performance coming from MVP, now they're here in Game 4 with KONGDOO Monster, who basically just lost 2 members in exchange for 1.5 turret and an Infernal Drake. I mean, feeling very good, especially after suffering such a tough defeat in Game 3. You want to come back strong in Game 4 to get this onto Game 5 so we can have a full series for my LCK debut. And really good to see, and KONGDOO Monster still keeping their spirits up, spirits high, and they just want to extend this over as much as they can.
That's the way it always has to be, Joel. We always have to have a 30-minute pause, a 5-game series, always have to have a torrid affair on your first day in the LCK. So very, very happy to have you here on the caster desk for the first time. I think a lot of people joining late, waiting for that Joel reveal to once again confirm whether you are just a disembodied head that we never see, or in fact a real human being. The jury's still out, Joel, just so you know.
You know, artificial intelligence has evolved to quite a level, and could just
you
be
wear
another
it well. You wear it really well.
Could be another exemplary performance of that, but other than that, the more important issue at hand is KONGDOO Monster. Although they are down 3-1, they have gathered a lot of objectives. Now Caitlyn's going to be jumped up here, but it's going to be easily swallowed up by Max.
They don't have enough vision to actually just use the Devour straight away. They're worried about Eugen being there. He is, spoilers, as we have the map hacks on. Skarner's not interested in face-checking anyone either, so MVP awkwardly with the Caitlyn, given how the early game has gone, kind of in that losing the minimum situation when they want to be proactive. They want to be wielding the Skarner as the true mid-game weapon he is. Well, QSS is complete.
Also a little skeptical of the Jinx pick coming back after a loss in Game 3, doing the same thing in Game 4. But you talked about the difference between having a Jinx with a Morgana and without a Morgana, but he's showing the difference now. Caitlyn with the Tahm Kench, not as strong as we saw earlier, but you can see beyond.
He is spotted by a ward, so Eugen knows. He was considering popping Predator as he was bouncing up in the air from the blasting plant. Fully aware of what was going to happen there. Singed continues to be singed, working on Shirelius as another item. The introduction of Shirelius has seemed to bring an introduction to the Singed. He gets a bit of AP, which he always likes for the threat on the Q, but also the movement speed. Doesn't have to go Righteous Glory into a full tank item to pick up the movement speed that Singed always craves. have to go Flash just because of the power of Flash. No Ghost on Singed these days.
Speaking of Singed, he does have the teleport up, whereas ADD does not. So in case where a team fight opens up, especially around that Rift Herald pit, where everybody's kind of centralized at the moment, you see, as I speak of, Talia just going to use the ultimate to get out of there.
No Braum to short the wall, so I have to respect it. Nice use. The Weaver's War around objectives, a very common set play in the LCK, and KONGDOO Monster looking to get back into the LCK. This is the first time I think all series they've had a pretty sizable lead in the early game. The early game has been MVP's playbook. It was only KONGDOO stealing Barons away under their nose in game number 2. They showed an actual ability to get things going. Now, we should mention, earlier in this tournament, some good early games into squandering the mid-game. Unfortunately, has been the way from KONGDOO. They've got engaged, they've got the Jinx, they have backup team fight. But actually closing a strong early game hasn't been KONGDOO Monster's strong suit.
And taking nothing away from Raze even, who has been subbed out for Eugene here. Eugene very disciplined, very calm, and doing just the right things and really not overreacting to do more, which is very good of a composure that he needs. Along with Singed here, and all the damage chart you see here, Ornn actually putting out the most damage of all the champions combined.
But unfortunately, he's done 5,000 odd damage into the stacking Dank Seal build, which is all about getting maximum value out of the Corrupting Potion between his ultimate and the regen from the Corrupting Potion, been able to regen through. He's got the CS lead as well. Not often do you have a massive damage lead, but no other leads to show, and that's just the reality of laning against the Singed.
That just goes to show you that the Ornn really hasn't been the only one being putting out the damage chart, and the rest of the lanes have been pretty stable at the fact that really no big damage trade outs have been put out. And you see the ultimate, that's kind of the extent of the damage trade that we will see with all the lanes here. But you see Ian, the Cassiopeia, trying to push out as much as they can towards his first turret in bot lane.
So one of my jobs for you, Joel, when we get to these big fights is I want to rate the grounding. Because again, it's a unique game where we have Miasma versus the Mega Adhesive, and I feel like one of them can set up the Zac, for example. On the other side, so many other abilities to be able to be picked up with grounded. Look to you to be our resident expert. There's no expert required to know. The Drake does go the way of MVP. He's engaged.
Gonna be Zac coming in, the ultimate procced right away. Just gonna get out of there.
Double
Weaver's
flash.
Wall is gonna come through. It's gonna limit the escape coming from Beyond and Max. Beyond just trying to get out there as much as he can. The wall still going down. ADD is just going to be alone by himself with the 4 members of KDM. Just trying to knock him up right away. KONGDOO Monster feeling very good about what they achieved there. They lose the Cloud Drake, which does go down to the smite of Beyond. But otherwise, a very good first kill coming in from the KONGDOO in that instance.
And man, Edge was a monster. He was able to zone 4 members out of the fight with a Weaver's Wall, and walking up, they couldn't do damage to any other member. It took a long time to kill ADD, but he was 4v1, all alone, eventually goes down. They can't quite kill the mid lane outer turret because Soul had to swap out of the minigun form and had to show respect to MVP when they eventually collapsed. But nicely done by KONGDOO Monster, and the only advantage MVP gets there is a Cloud Drake.
Really is, and big advantage now. Second one this time around for KONGDOO after getting that Infernal Drake earlier in this game. They lose a Cloud Drake, but gain that kill, which was very needed for the continual build-up of items. Most of these carries do need that, but really is. KONGDOO Monster really firing right back after they lose out in Game 3 in a really, I have to say, kind of a disappointing fashion.
Sure.
You know, we thought that KONGDOO Monster would have put out a little more fight in Game 3, but it seemed like they were just carved down one by one, and an eventual loss. They did face defeat, but here they are once again with a very similar team comp, especially with the Jinx, bringing out the Morgana this time around, feeling a lot more stronger this time around.
Finding hits, they just want to get this turret, it's not so much about the engage. Let's grade them on one thing. Game's 20 minutes in, game's certainly not over. It's been a good early game, but they went from Raze to Eugene. They had, like you say, a bit of a brain explosion where they went all in trying to make a kill around topside and got heavily punished. Let's grade them on 20 minutes. The mem boom factor is not there. KONGDOO have been able to shake off a very poor end to Game 3, make a substitution where they lose their primary shot caller in Raze, and put together a very solid 20 minutes. So for that, for KONGDOO fans, they will be smiling about the start here. Fans around the world smiling about Singed doing his thing. Always hilarious, but a lot to work here for KONGDOO, but still a lot of work to be done.
Another Weaver's Wall coming through. Gonna just isolate the Caitlyn, just gets out of there, the Caliber net, but otherwise it's gonna be about just a mid turret going down, which was their initial priority. KONGDOO Monster does get that down as well, so continue gold and continue objectives being taken from KONGDOO Monster as they just push their lead forward, and just seems like MVP kind of in the instance of what we saw from KONGDOO Monster in Game 3 of just being passive, just trying to defend out as much as they can, but it seems like KONGDOO Monster, even against the Caitlyn comp, they're on the push momentum.
The pace is certainly good. 21 minutes to get all 3 outer turrets. The Skarner already heavily frustrated when it comes to making score involvements. Pilot on the back foot on the Caitlyn. They've been able to turn the Taliyah into an advantage over the Caitlyn comp that rolled them in game number 3. So like you say, so far so good for KONGDOO. Roach already super quick. He gets the Raptor Cloak, so he walks past the turrets even faster than he did before. KONGDOO Monster, what is the next objective? Usually when the turrets are down, the Baron is where you visit. Can be tricky to pull off, but I would say they've been the better team around Baron on this particular match day. Not over the course of the season, but on this particular match day. MVP push up. They want to, for the first time this game, draw the side of MVP into a lane they're in. They want to make KONGDOO Monster accountable, because so far it's kind of been the Singe story of pulling them across the map, and KONGDOO Monster being there first, taking objectives.
Really is, and KONGDOO Monster really taking advantage of where Singe is playing around the map. Has to keep kind of Ornn kind of trapped in, trying to defend out Roach more than he's trying to put it as his own macro plays for his team, but otherwise has been defending duties for the side of Ornn, but otherwise KONGDOO Monster pushing forward with what they know works, and the composition they brings a lot of havoc onto MVP here, but MVP can't be really aggressive at this point, but Edge is going to be jumping in here with the rest of his teammates.
There's some outplay potential. Skarner is here as well. We're going to see the commitment by Yujun.
He's going to be grounded up here, as you do say. Ian's just going to be jumping up, and the ultimate coming through. And be flashing away. Yujun's going to be safe for now. The teleport comes in from ADD.
That means TP advantage. Roach didn't need to use his.
Roach is in mid lane. He's just going to go for it now. The Baron is in their sights now with the control ward being put out. They do have the...
They have good Baron damage. Remember, Cassiopeia's here. They started up. Ian healing from it.
You know, seems like Roach is going to join in this fight as well. The Baron damage not that quick for the side of MVP.
all alone again, but he's able to split the wall. He's still taking Baron.
Ultimate coming in from the Caitlyn. Otherwise, nothing really coming through. The ultimate coming from Ornn gets one member knocked up, but otherwise it's going to be a Baron, and it's stalled for now for MVP, and couldn't really get that down. Very slow Baron damage at this moment in game.
Couldn't rush it down. I think going for the 50-50 not the right call, because they lose it. KONGDOO Monster basically win the game. They're pulling them into the mid lane. Another Dark Binding. Feeling like a Reiki stepping on every moment. Beyond fall super low. That means W's on cooldown from Tomkins. We take a deep breath. We back away. KONGDOO Monster have subverted that Baron take. The Searing Charge breaking the wall actually stopped ADD from just being alone and dying again. He doesn't have the Warmogs. He has to fully disengage. When the Warmogs is there, that play is a bit cleaner for MVP.
And Roach is back at it again on his proxying duties, and going to be an annoyance for MVP for the entirety of this game.
Game goes long enough, he'll just have an incidental Flame Horizon, because that's just what Singe does. He's much better at killing minions than he is at team fighting, a lot more situational because it's only CC.
And look at how the interaction is. Really about Ornn just reacting to Singe's movement more than Ornn making his own independent plays.
Ian is way out of position for this Infernal Drake as well.
Okay, so it's going to be the 3 members, now all 5 joined in together. It's going to be another Infernal Drake coming in from KONGDOO here, and it's going to be another take. Additional power being packed into here. Even a little bit of mana and a little bit of AP coming in from Roach here. Feeling very good about what he has accomplished so far. It seems like ADD is really having a hard time contributing to the team, because you know, every plan that he sets up is just being kind of interrupted by the side of Roach there, as you see here again.
And ADD's build, even though it's top lane Ornn, a tank, is actually more interesting to talk about than in most cases, because you think about a perfect item against Singe, Zac, and Taliyah, you think Banner of Command, because at least then Singe is proxying most of a wave, but slowed down by the big magic immune minion. Didn't build it, went for the Abyssal Mask, better in a team fight, allows a Cassiopeia to do more damage. For his second item, is it an Iceborne Gauntlet Rush? No, it's a Frozen Heart, again, a team fight item. When it comes to actually being able to do anything compared to the Singed, even slowing him down, he hasn't gone for any of those items. What does that tell you, Joel? It means you get the teleport, you make the teleport work, or Singed is set up to answer you in the 1v1. So he's built heavily for team fights, almost to a tone-deaf level. That means the teleport plays have to work, and every time teleport is on cooldown, he's kind of just helpless in the 1v1.
It reminds us of kind of KONGDOO Monster in Game 3 where they decided to abandon one objective to all in on another. Seems like that's the case for ADD this time around, going fully for the team fight. That means that this occasion right here, this push with the help of ADD has to work out, but Ian just putting down the ground here and really nothing for ADD to do. He's just trying to build up some items, but otherwise has to be about Sin, just annoying him after and after again. And Roche now joining in the team fight here. It's going to go extension into it, and that's going to be
chasing after ADD with the Shirelias.
And Turbo coming in. The
That's
Weaver's
a lot
wall.
used. All right, now MVP have a short window. Notice they have 3-item Caitlyn, a Zeke's Convergent Skarner to amp up her damage, and they didn't even need Ian involved in all of that. I think it's time to try to make another Baron turn, because at least now you know some important cooldowns are not available for KONGDOO Monster.
A little questionable there, going all in for the Ornn there. Could have had a little bit other targets. They were a little more patient, but let's talk about the Weaver's Wall and the Singed Ultimate being proc there just to try to catch the Ornn. Doesn't really succeed in it, and there you see ADD kind of using the Singed Depression, trying to proxy the wave himself.
They're certainly catchers, because I look on the side of KONGDOO Monster, they have double Shirelias. That's pretty cool to see. Old meta coming true again, junglers with Shirelias, going all the way back to 2012, 2013 stories in this particular game. Roach continues to side lane, and they're not able to make any time with those cooldowns being down from KONGDOO Monster. They get a bit more presence on the map, and that was something that MVP was struggling with. Recreating that also going to be tricky. That was a lot about the Weaver's Wall being used suboptimally. But at least MVP can say, we've built for teamfight. Ian's in the side lane getting free farm. At least the teamfight's getting stronger with every extra minion wave the Cassiopeia hoovers up.
But at the same time, you got to talk about Jinx, which they're building around. They're getting more farm here and there, and Jinx is going to be getting stronger as the minutes fall by. So it's going to be Cassiopeia along with the opposing Jinx, who can get stronger as time goes on. And it's going to be about the 4-man unit of KONGDOO Monster just grouped together and traveling along just to provide as much cover for the Jinx, whereas the kind of Sin just all by himself along with ADD there. But it's going to be different to really figure out as the game goes on, who we're going to see initiate the team fight. Is Sin just going to join in time, whereas ADD definitely prioritize on joining the team fight early.
It won't be a Warmox onto ADD, so the Baron turns, which I think MVP are very strong at, becoming a bit more tricky. Warmogs onto the tank, tanking it up. He's happy. His face check.
It's going to be the Weaver's Wall coming down. A lot of AoE damage, and Soul having a party out with the Q, with the AoE damage, and that's going to be Jinx just going forward here. Gets excited for now, and just going to move forward with this. The Pilot's just going to go down. He's going to flash away. Soul's going to be fine for that. The Caitlyn, just one more auto attack would have done it, but that's going to be a triple kill coming in for the Talia, and that's going to be Ian just joining a little bit late to the party, and does not grave any fruition off of that fight.
Man, these fights are so fickle, but in the end, the Caitlyn just went for assassination out of the Devourer. Couldn't quite get the Jinx, couldn't get the autos off. That means the Jinx gets the kills. Now, it doesn't lead to a Baron. If it does, maybe the game ends. Just a pure face check. Devourer used on cooldown very early. You think, okay, heads are cracked. This fight's over. But the traps go down. Pilot able to kite back and kill the Morgana. Gets a lot of priority auto attacks, but eventually, with Devourer on cooldown, Pilot into the team, Pilot out of the team, he decides to try to end it with autos onto Soul. Not quite enough. It doesn't lead to a Baron, but you can see how close these fights are between MVP and KONGDOO in Game 4.
I feel like Pilot did everything right there, especially with the help of this support Max. Trying to devour him at right times, flashing in at the right location, trying to do that. But we're going to see it in jungle.
KONGDOO straight onto the Baron, actually.
Baron effort coming in from
KONGDOO
Monster here.
They don't have any information.
Jinx putting out a lot of damage. The TP's going to come forward, but it's going to be very late when it's already going to be took down, and ADD's all alone here. It's going to be the ultimate being procced by the Ornn, but is that going to lead to anything here beyond? He's ready to do something here. Secret's going to be just ulted up eventually, and that's going to be the Secret going down. Morgana's down, and that's going to be the 4 members of KONGDOO Monster just escaping from this wrath after a nice gain of Baron. This late minute part of the 30-minute game.
But Game 2, rearing its ugly head in game number 4 if you're an MVP fan. Again, just underrating Baron speed coming through from double Infernal Drake. KONGDOO Monster, they just did not respect. There was a window. They can make an assertive play there. I honestly think because of the Singed and the team fighting build from ADD, the team of MVP needed to make it about Baron. They needed to force Barons, but instead, they gave Open too much of a lead. When it came to Baron control, KONGDOO Monster said, thank you very much. Take the Baron, take the Ocean Drake as well. And suddenly, KONGDOO Monster, they can play the side lanes with the Singe. They can look for the team fight with the 3.5 items onto Soul. I think that invitation, RSVP has been sealed, delivered, and maybe that Game 5 that didn't seem likely after Game 3 might actually be online.
You have to be frustrated if you're the MVP organization, especially with the coaching staff, when you're winning in various ways against KONGDOO Monster, but you're losing against the same thing from KONGDOO Monster. They're losing against the objectives, losing against the Barons.
You're circling Baron again and again on your piece of paper.
You just got to talk about the various ways. The one thing you have to defend against KONGDOO Monster to win a game, you're just having a hard time with it, and KONGDOO Monster bring back a game 2, just a remembrance of what defeated them earlier. We're going to go back to the team fight here.
Kidnap doesn't work. We're waiting to see if there's any targets taken down. Singe in the front line.
And Roach is going to be very safe for now. Zach does go into Blobless, but he's going to be safe for now, putting a lot of front cover. So no casualties from either side for the time being. So very good effort by MVP. We were talking about faulting their kind of mistakes of what had troubled them earlier. Went for the very aggressive initiate on that team fight. Almost got the Zac and almost got a couple of members, especially with Pilot putting out the damage with the auto attack, but did not lead to a single casualty from KONGDOO.
But look, Joel, this series is not about almost. If you almost win the series, you're in Challenger. You're the second best team in this series. You are in Challenger, so the almost aren't good enough. Notice that right at the end, after Singe had gone in, Ian used ult flash just to try to get some damage, try to register a stun. Doesn't get it. Now she's a Cassiopeia without flash. She gets hit by the Mega Adhesive, the W from Singe. She's dead to the Zac engage, so a lot was used for MVP, and not getting anything means that the next time KONGDOO Monster rolls through, she's going to be exposed in particular.
He talked about the lack of in-game adaptation for KONGDOO, especially in the games they were losing at. Kind of seeing a little bit of that from MVP. They see the problem, they notice what is causing their problems, but just really can't seem to find an answer for it. Another Weaver's Wall coming down. It's gonna be an
it's
easy
beautiful
turret.
too.
It's gonna just
What's
Ian
Ian gonna do? He can't even get there.
Okay, doesn't have the flash. He's not gonna be able to get there, but otherwise, just trying to defend out the turret as much as he can. Seems like with the next minion wave, the turret will eventually go down. Does it lead to kills though? That's gonna be a big question here.
ADD can't afford to get flipped, has to move back. They keep it alive for another wave. As the wave comes in, it'll be the dregs of this Baron buff. 15 seconds. They walk up. They're going to try and make it. Looking for a zoning elastic slingshot, you'd think.
Yujun disciplined once again just to get the turret and nothing else from it. And
what's next, though?
Gonna be an initiate coming in. Yujin's going to be taken down from the ultimate, but it's going to be using the ultimate right back onto Beyond to bring him back. Once again, no casualty from either side. It's going to be just another success story for KONGDOO getting that inhibitor turret.
And Banner of Command can do a little bit of work in the bot side as well for MVP. All they can do is answer, but they lose the turret. Sadly for them, the only people walking up are Yujun and Roach, and trying to actually stop a Zac and a Singe from slipping out of your fingers. Best of luck with that. Both of them able to disengage. They were only walking up to get the zoning. They get the turret, can't get the inhibitor, so no inhibitor threat at this point in the game. But Roach, who about 50 CS ahead of his opponent, will return. And you know what? It's a KONGDOO Monster win. It feels like. That's the weather report right now, and that means it's probably going to be all about the Baron.
Really the high contributor into this KONGDOO Monster eventual victory, if we do see it, it has to be the Singe. Really just using that macro game to its potential, really kind of losing the balance of MVP, trying to just break them apart as much as they can and just disperse them, while the other members of KONGDOO do get their advantages on the macro plays here.
The funny thing is, the game goes long enough and you think, yeah, Singe is going to be there, proxying, teleport in. If the game goes long enough, 6-item Cassiopeia, 6-item Caitlyn, you scan to ult anyone, those two kill them. They both do intense damage to one target, single target damage, and in the 4 seconds or so it takes Roach to join the fight, someone's dead and they might actually lose a 5v5. So as the game gets longer and so much power is loaded onto the AD carry, and of course we know how strong AD carries are in this meta, with Zeke's convergence and the buffs being worn on them, you have to be tricky. You can feel like there's a paddock to roam. I'm Singed and all the side lanes are for me to roam free, or some sort of free-range animal. Things can turn around quickly as the damage items amp up.
We are getting to kind of the longer game in this series as we do reach the 35-minute mark with no really significant amount of victories coming. It's going to be the Ornn side out here.
Can Tahm Kench get there?
Tahm Kench goes by himself, so that's going to be a 5v2 scenario between KONGDOO Monster and MVP. The three members just trying to join a little bit late. Max just Abyssal Void just into death, and that will be KONGDOO Monster picking 2 additional kills. Kind of a 1+1 favor. We talk about KONGDOO Monster.
Max actually misread that situation. He didn't use the flash to try to gap close to get the Devour. He waited, and then the flip came through from Singe to take him out of Devour range. Needed to be there for that, was right in that line between I need to save, but I can't give up my life. The moment the Abyssal Voyage gets through, you have to choose one. He chose neither. And KONGDOO Monster, they want to break the base.
Another Weaver's Wall coming in. Very nicely done. Even if this push doesn't do it, the next push ought to do it. And Jinx just kind of tanking the turret himself, just trying to get all the damage in, and that will be enough to get the initiator. But that's going to be Soul just going
That's
excited.
that damage we spoke about.
And we talked about Pilot being in the front line. It's going to be a dangerous proposition against Soul. Soul has to keep himself alive, and that is the only objective really KONGDOO needs to accomplish in order to get the team fight victories. But Soul, you have to be a little bit careful. Even if you get one of the damage onto the back line, you have to kind of be cautious of your own life as well.
And that awkward spot, Joel, is you feel so good if you're going to, yes, the double kill, yes, another inhibitor turret. But no inhibitors yet. So the next Baron play, Baron can be contested. Singed walking down bot lane and trying to show threat to a naked inhibitor. It sounds great because he's a good teleport user, but it's going to be very slow, Joel, because he doesn't have much turret damage. When it comes to objectives, it seems like KONGDOO Monster are allowing this trade. They have no information about what's happening around Baron. Looks like they're going to trade Baron for Elder.
They have an idea, but they see the notification in their chat here that Baron has been taken, but a very high priority Elder Drake has been taken with 2 Infernal buffs and also 1 Ocean buff as well. So a lot of stacks onto this Infernal, onto this Elder buff here.
Problem is MVP gets something, and with the Baron recall, they get there to fight with it. So you don't actually get much of an advantage for KONGDOO Monster. Feels like you adjust your macro and get something. You get 2 advantages eventually. Bit of chunk damage. That means the Devour's down. Roach.
Okay, without Pilot, they will not be able to defend this inhibitor here. And that's just him going back to the base to recall and to get the health right back before he returns to defending the base once again. But once again, just 1 auto attack from Jinx can knock up 50% of the HP from Caitlyn in an instant. So scary proposition for the rest of the MVP when the Pilot has to be the kind of the main damage dealer in defending these compounds here. But it's really important for MVP to stay strong, to defend out as much as they can.
And look, the Elder does get the inhibitor, so it's not the worst case scenario, but I usually come from the school of thought of they have the top lane inhibitor turret, they have the bot lane inhibitor turret. MVP haven't really been able to move past what? Maybe they're Raptors when it comes to getting on the map. Most of it's been super defensive. Why were they able to get anything? And that feels like a trade was opted into when KONGDOO Monster could afford to be greedy. They were too generous, a bit of charity in picking up the Baron. And if MVP can just push and force a fight when it's Baron versus Elder, that's more than they were going to get in any other part of this game.
It's going to be a Baron push being attempted here by Pilot and the rest of the squad of MVP. They're going to get this turret for now. The second tier going down.
Keeping it very narrow. They've also got Orin looking for Singed.
Zac just pushing in here.
The Devour.
The Devour does come in from the Tom Kench, and that's going to be Pilot way in the back using the distance he can use just to put in a lot of damage onto your targets, and Roach is going to be half-healthed as well.
Max, even with Cleanse, wasn't able to have enough time. As
That's going to be an ultimate coming from the Cassiopeia. That's going to be Pilot putting out a lot of damage onto the members of the KONGDOO Monster, and they did not see that coming. That's going to be instantly 2 members, the ADC and the jungle, going down for KONGDOO Monster, and a huge ultimate coming from Ian on the Cassiopeia.
That was the super play. They couldn't see the Cassio. Didn't work last time with the flash. Gets it that time. They could make it work in mid because they had the Baron buff, and Orin knew there was no flanks coming. They're going to maybe take their own inhibitor MVP against the run of play.
And could this be the demise of losing the Baron? As you talked about the charitable play coming from KONGDOO, they did get the Elder, but they lose 2 members already.
Are they going to try and end the game?
And it really is, and Baron buff with Pilot, with the Caitlyn.
Still 20 seconds on Jinx.
As long as Caitlyn stays alive, I see MVP just pushing forward here, getting the rest of the turrets, but ADD's going to go down in a very extended play here.
What does it mean? They're going to get at least 1 Nexus turret. Let's see if they get too greedy.
We're going to see still outnumbering.
Speaking of greed,
we're going to see Singe trying to go for the very much the XPK and trying to get
it's going to be slow, but it is still damage.
But look at this, a lot of damage, especially coming from the minions, putting a lot of damage on it, but it's going to be out-rivaled by the same minions on the opposite end.
It's Singed, unfortunately. It's far from the Camille and Riven. Felt like we were watching the LPL semifinal game 1. This exact play happened. Not enough to close the game. MVP didn't get too greedy. But notice how quickly a game can turn when you roll through one lane, you make one sick outplay, and suddenly KONGDOO Monster almost threw the game.
And this series has all been about Barons, hasn't it, Papa Smitty? We talk about from game 1 and game 2 where KONGDOO Monsters first got their victory in this series. They got it through the Barons, and MVP seems like everything they lost throughout this game 4 has been regained right back. Just with that coronation of the Baron.
Buffs are wearing out. ADD still half a second. Connect the third inhibitor turret. Start seems to be no. Not sure about that Weaver's Wall actually from Edge, but not going to matter. They push through. It is still only one exposed inhibitor on each side, and that's with KONGDOO having the lion's share of control for the 41 minutes this game has gone. They really need to mentally reset. Very nice play from MVP. The flashes are down. They still have a huge weapon in the Jinx. The Ornn item there, the Molten Edge, complete from Caitlyn. We mentioned in the late game, Jinx can get going with the first kill, but if honestly no one dies, Caitlyn is basically Jinx strength in a 5v5. A lot of power on both. Waiting to see how this one goes. KONGDOO Monster will definitely be worried that they haven't closed it yet.
I think MVP will feel the same as they almost had a chance to finish out the game and get themselves right back into LCK with that last push they had with the Baron buff, but can feel safer now because honestly they're in a lot better situation they were 20 minutes ago. And talk about what MVP could have lost if they hadn't gotten the Baron. You know, just getting that sneak Baron in exchange of the Elder Dragon got MVP a lot of acquisitions that can carry them forward to an eventual, could be it, just the last victory they want to hear.
Well, we all know the old meme that Cassiopeia can't buy those boots, but she found movement speed. She got the Spellbinder, I believe it's called. First time we're seeing that on Cassiopeia to give a bit of movement speed situationally. Plenty of spell casts happening when a Cassiopeia is there. So good job, you found pseudo boots in the inventory. Full items on most members, the tanks, the junglers. Sorry guys, it's going to take a little bit more time. It's going to be about execution. We just saw Ian make a super play, but his flash is on cooldown for the better part of 2 minutes. MVP, they may be pushing up. They don't want to give away a Baron and an Elder. Probably don't have the tools right now to win a 5v5 in the same way.
Now, KONGDOO Monsters, if they are able to fight out MVP, as soon as the Baron spawns, that will be coming in the next 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Jinx ain't got no boots. She got for a QSS in the spot of the boots. Hadn't had it. Got the Skarner ultimate and thought better of it. Here's the Miasma. Remember, we are grading the use of grounding effects, and Miasma certainly worked out in the last fight.
Really did, and here's Jinx once again. It has to be the superstar, you know, coming in for KONGDOO Monster. If they want to get a victory, it will be done through Jinx, or it will be lost through Jinx, I would have to believe.
Yep.
You know, believe, and just in this late moment, in 43 minutes time, Jinx is at a power level that can rip down opponents, but at the same time, just losing that member alone could lose you in the team fight altogether.
And you know, we allowed ourselves to indulge in the future around 20 minutes and said, we could reach a point in the game where Skarner ults anyone, and then Cassiopeia and Caitlyn with single target damage can assassinate them. I think we're there. I think we're there with the damage items that are out. That's the underrated part about Skarner is he has, honestly, a Caitlyn-style trough where he doesn't do much as a true frontliner, but when he has enough damage on his team that 1.75 seconds of suppression leads to death on anyone, he gets a bit of a resurgence. Is that resurgence here? Can Singed find a role in these team fights after being out of the last couple? Those what-ifs, we won't have to wonder for much longer. We're oh so close to knowing.
Baron just spawns right now, and KONGDOO Monsters are the closest
Where's
to
the Weaver's Wall?
Weaver's Wall come through, and are they just going to look for a sneak Baron play?
It seemed like they were going for a pick, and then now they're going for a Baron. It lasts a really long time.
Hey, the Beyond just going to go in, just get the one member, and that's going to be Morgana's going down. It doesn't go to Jinx, so Jinx is still alive, can put in the damage if he wants. Soul's just going to
die to Baron.
Okay, Eugen could, and that's going to be Zac going down into gloves, and Soul just still putting out a lot of damage as much as he can. Zac will go down to Pilot, so that will be a jungle-less KONGDOO Monster. Can they fight against Beyond and the rest of the MVP who are still alive and very ready to take the next Baron?
I'm not sure if you'll disagree with me, but that looks like a wayward shot call without Raze in the lineup. They couldn't decide between a pick and rushing Baron. They were very slow to start the Baron. Speaking of starting Baron, MVP all over it.
And really, without the smite, impossible for KONGDOO to steal this one, and it's going to be a second Baron going over to MVP after this 40-minute mark, so an enlarged buff when it comes to the power level that we see from this next Baron buff here.
And even though they've got a one-game lead, I don't see any charity. They're not giving away a trade of buffs. They're walking straight over the second buff, and now they're actually going to try and shut down Roach. That'll take a while.
Zoning effect here.
But look what they actually bring. It's actually the Baron buff onto 3 cannon minions, including a Baron at the same time.
Exactly what we see
the
here.
Elder started.
Just Tahm Kench zoning out the rest of the members of KONGDOO while the other members are here to take the Elder Dragon for free. It's going to be a one-stack Elder Dragon, but more importantly, it's a stolen Elder Drake away from KONGDOO Monster, who could have had another 3-stack to work with, but it's going to be MVP once again pushing forward. After that first Baron take, they look like a lot stronger team, and here they are with the second Baron buff, also the Elder buff, and here they are looking strong to finish the game.
But Joel, unfortunately, it does seem like we're going to get the fitting end to KONGDOO Monster's spring season, because for the 5th, 6th, 7th time of spring season, they've held the world in their hands for at least a single game, and then suddenly all the doves had flooded. Suddenly it feels like a magic trick, and then MVP controls the game. They now have both buffs in this particular case. They're walking up. There's certainly team fights they win here. See if the Weaver's Walk can be better from Edge. But they're walking forward. Remember, no inhibitor turret.
Now the only damage really does come from Soul, whereas the Cassiopeia and the Caitlyn can put out immersive amount of damage onto the members of KONGDOO Monsters. So that will be a 2v1 damage trade-out, and that can't be KONGDOO Monster trying to defend down, but with the Baron buff, also with the Elder, it'll be really incredibly difficult for MVP.
Baron's Bannon's trap, so much to look at here. Best of luck with this call, Joel. So much happening on the Rift. Do MVP want to go for the end? Seems tricky to pull off. They will agree with us. How about some rotations to slow down the action?
Top Kench, and along with Caitlyn once again, the pushing lane. I mean, at their full duties here with maximum power earned from the neutral buffs. You see them 5 members strong. Bannon minions is not going to be very important.
Slowing
here.
down the minions with the.
I'm talking about, you know, slowing down efficiency for KONGDOO Monster. They have lost it all now. The Bannon minions just going to go down here, but altogether, KONGDOO Monster, you talk about, we're just kind of continue on from your point that they just lost everything they have gathered for themselves. Very tough 30 minutes they have gathered for themselves. They got in the lead, very sure of that. But after that 10 minutes, after losing that first Baron, everything's been going downhill.
Look, realistically, they brought a delicious lunch to work. They were so excited to eat it. It was in the fridge. They had a big sign saying, "This is for KONGDOO, not for MVP." And you know what? They had their lunch taken away. It was pickpocketed. Unfortunately, MVP ate that delicious lunch. We'll say it's a turkey sub for the sake of argument. However, if you're KONGDOO Monster, don't dwell on the turkey sub you don't have. You still have a foot-long meatball in terms of the Jinx. You still have a very delicious meal which can carry you to the end of your hunger. So you still have something. Don't focus on what you lost. Don't focus on the last 15 minutes. They still have weapons, but it's easy to forget when a few things go against you.
It really is. They have to just stall out as much time as they can. The Baron buff still on for the next few seconds here. With the Elder buff that has run out, so it's kind of on even grounds as to the 2 team fights that can occur. They're going to have to dive in here. ADD going to be missing out on the ultimate there, so a lack of Ornn ultimate will be the difference maker when it comes to the 2 teams that could find it out here. Pilot still in the front line, very confident about where his position is. Another Bannon here, and we're going to see here, it's going to be MVP that can push forward. They can just look towards another Baron and wait it out. Could lead to a 50-plus minute game, but could it be just MVP with 2 main damage outputs? Can they just outpower the likes of KONGDOO Monster?
It's just very hard to roll in 5v5 and do that outpowering. They still have things to respect, and we're in that awkward spot for the first time this series. We don't have any Relic Shield junglers. The amount of vision able to be put down is minimal, and people are at 6 items and then some. Boots are being sold already, so getting vision on the map is difficult. And for one thing you say, well, that means not many TP wards. It also means very little understanding of where enemy wards are. So Roach, for example, can look for some sort of flank, but now you have to be a little bit more dotting the I's and crossing the T's than you want to be. Maybe it has to be about the 3rd Baron, or even scarier, the 2nd Elder Dragon buff, as it was MVP taking both of those when it came to the 2nd spawns.
500 CS for Cassiopeia and 600 CS for Caitlyn means that they are at their maximum strength. Altogether, can't get any stronger than where they are, so it's going to be about stalling this game.
Jinx finally made an adjustment in build. She hadn't gone for Runans this game, but has the Hurricane now and has a lot more AoE threat than before. Sort of thing where Skarner can actually just incidentally die because he's so squishy compared to other true frontliners. So something small to notice. Played with the build many times. Merc Scimitar and the Hurricane there now. Sure. Pilot's actually been pretty staunch on keeping the boots, but maybe it's time to abort that plan. We saw that he has 4,200 gold in the inventory.
We talk about the The extensive builds when you can come with an Ornn composition.
Will we ever have a last Whisper? It feels like Soul can't fit it into the build. I understand that because you can break the attack speed cap, and getting above 3-4 attack speeds might situationally be more valuable, especially with Hurricane, compared to some other schools of thought. But a lot of thrift shopping from Soul, who only has 6 item slots. If he could buy a 7th one, he'd be in heaven.
Really is. You have to compensate for the lack of damage that you are putting on your team. Obviously, Talia, not the most damage when compared to Cassiopeia.
No. Nope.
It's incomparable at this point in the game, and it's going to be about more of the utility tools. Can you make the Weaver's Wall this effective this late in the game?
Can you get value out of Cassiopeia? Because we've seen good Cassiopeia play and bad Cassiopeia play in this. It's very unreliable champion in team fights, and probably not going to have a whole team sitting around this wall where we see there is, for once, defensive vision from KONGDOO and opting into the Petrifying Gaze. One way to make the Cassio a bit more reliable is to play around Baron. A Baron turn is very possible for MVP. We've already noted a couple of times that the Skarner ultimate onto one person being DPS down by Cassio and also the Caitlyn does spell doom. But somehow, some way, this Game 4 has extended to 52 minutes. Never should have, given how much control KONGDOO had. That control is now a 50-50, and we're going to wait and see which way the 50-50 goes.
See the team fight that could potentially open up here. One lack of patience could mean the doom of one team here, and talking about Cassiopeia and the Caitlyn putting out so much damage. The Baron will be spawned here. Gonna be an instantaneous run coming for MVP. Does stop for now. Weaver's Wall goes down, and that's gonna be Zach trying to go down and gets the Weaver's Wall.
Kill
and the
Caitlyn!
ultimate comes in, and Caitlyn is dead. Cassiopeia is still left available, but Max goes down as well.
This should be the game.
Okay, this should be 2 members going down. Will this go to the end of the game though? Can they push just enough to get far onto this? But Cassiopeia still has a decent line push, and that's going to be them trying to figure out the question as to whether KONGDOO can end this game.
And it's going to be so big as well because it'll be Eugene's first professional victory. I think they've done it with the big engage, getting the Caitlyn. They roll through. It's only Cassiopeia, a single target champion, to try to stop this. I think the game's won by KONGDOO off that play.
Yeah, they're one at a time. The inhibitor turret going down. The inhibitor going down as well. One more Nexus turret they have to neck down before they get to the eventual Nexus. One more kill eventually coming, and that's going to be the Skarner going down, and the loss of Cassiopeia. That will mean the eventual win coming in from KONGDOO Monster, and they're going to go into Game 5 to decide their fate of the LCK Summer coming up.
We're locking and loading for a best of 1 to find out who will join us in LCK Summer 2018. Eugene goes down 9 times, and just like his squad, will not go down one more. Picks up the victory on the Zac. Very nicely done by them, and KONGDOO Monster, it dragged out. It seemed like they'd thrown away their lead, but they find a way back in. They get to feast on a best of 1, and now we are no closer to knowing whether MVP or KONGDOO Monster will retain their spot in LCK Summer 2018.
To be frank with you, Papa, I have not been a believer of KONGDOO Monster before, especially in this Game 4 where they have lost all the good reaping of souls, all the harvest they have put themselves, they threw it all away, put it in the fire, but here they are, just one team fight all to do it, with the Zac coming in, Eugen making that initiation super play to allow the killing of Pilot, and that ended up doom of MVP.
And that 20 minutes allowed MVP a 50-50, allowed MVP to get the fight that seemed to not be there. Unfortunately for them, KONGDOO Monster did it better. They were able to take them down, and now it turns into a best of 1. Will Eugen stay in the lineup? You have to think yes. Will there be any adjustments on the side of MVP? It's all down to a single game. Oh boy, Joel, you couldn't have known it was going this way, but clearly it is. After the break, that final game in the best of 5.